What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Shout at the Plate. We're back again just after a couple of weeks. Max, Chip, and George, along with our two former guest panelists, bringing together everyone who's been on the show. Ben Brown, Mo Ahmed. We got a post-trade deadline special for y'all tonight. So before we started recording, Mo said that he was about to set Chip off. So let's hear what that bomb is going to be.
I know he doesn't even need to set me off. I'm already set off. I'm like.
Well, I just want to say two things to you real quick. Prospect huggers and Victor Robles. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, here's my definitive take on the trading deadline. Unless you, and this is look, I'm going to be as rational and reasoned and not, hysterical as possible. But the fact of the matter is, unless you are a currently rebuilding team who has no reasonable chance to compete, not like, the say the Giants or the Red Sox or a team that's on the fringe of the wild card hunt, like no reasonable like that. If you have no reasonable chance to compete for a World Series, to you, unless you are a rebuilding team, prospects are a Ponzi scheme. They are a extremely low safety asset that is in all statistical likelihood going to yield you absolutely nothing. And if you are holding on to these assets with a chance to compete instead of going all in, again, provided that, you don't, and look, there's room for wiggle room on this, right? Like if you are a team whose core is young and you're going to have, a handful of chances over the next few years to compete. I get holding on to prospects a little bit, but at the same time, it's almost better. At that point, it's better to just lock up your core and trade those prospects for currently good players and just go all in. The fact of the matter is,
that's what the Braves did. The Braves locked up Acuna and Albies for really team-friendly deals, and now they've got Olsen and Riley long-term. That's 4 position players who are exceptionally talented.
So cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those guys are cheap. Those guys are locked up. Those guys are controlled. Got it. But even if they're in a situation where their core is pretty young. But if you're in a situation, and again, for instance, the Mets are the perfect example of this, who had a truly awful deadline day. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. It's a deadline day that certainly betrays, I think, a certain lack of urgency, a lack of familiarity with what it means to be a contending team. I think it's the kind of deadline you have if you don't really believe you're a contender, which I think is silly. The Mets, at least before today, were a contender. But the fact of the matter is, if you are refusing to trade prospects that could potentially become the major leaguers you're getting. And I sort of get being hesitant on rentals, but at the same time, for most teams, but you are ultimately, so ultimately the purpose of prospects is to become good major leaguers, right? And the purpose of having good major league players is to win a World Series. So if you have a chance to win a World Series now, what's the point in holding on to the same value for the future? I mean, especially consider, and again, it would be another thing if prospects hit at a high rate. For instance, in the NFL, top prospects generally hit at a 50-60% clip or so. And that's not a real statistic. That's just me kind of eyeballing it. But in baseball, I mean, outside of the few, semi-generational prospects, these guys bust at extremely high rates. I mean, you look at Jared Kelenic, and for instance, the Mets, who traded Jared Kelenic and got roasted for it, for Edwin Diaz, who's now, one of the biggest reasons they're anything.
Somebody play the trumpets.
Yeah, Edwin Diaz is one of the best relievers on the planet. He is a huge reason why the Mets are a competitive team, and they traded a top prospect for it. And they got lampooned for it, including by me, which I was wrong. Dead wrong.
Kelnick's hitting a $130 in the big leagues.
Kelenic is not a major league player. He's not a major league. It's been 2 years.
Now he'll go rake in AAA and then he'll come back up and hit whatever you said, $130, George.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's where he's at
what
right now.
That's basically what he's doing. Like he's
So,
a
I
major
mean,
leaguer. He's like
the
a
fact-
like a
He's a
4A
quad A.
player.
Quad
Yeah.
A.
Yeah, and that sucks for him. But like the fact of the matter is, any prospect hugger would rather the Mets have Jared Kelenic hitting 130 for the team or like 320 in AAA, which does nothing for them, than Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
That's the argument you're making. Like,
Yeah, I
that's
think
absolutely
with
the argument you're making.
prospects, you hope they can become like take the Padres, for example. You hope a guy like CJ Abrams with the bat
Oh no,
can
it's
turn
just-
into
that's a bad example. Use
All
like
right, fine.
Haskell or something. CJ
You
Abrams is
look-
actually bad.
you look at the players that the Padres gave up. They gave up a handful of minor leaguers and Luke Voigt to the Nationals. By the way, Luke Voigt is going to turn into the Joker playing for that Nationals team.
Oh my god.
That's gonna be-
I'm scared the
that's
guy's
gonna
gonna like
be-
jump off a cliff or something. Like
But you look at the players that the Padres gave up. You hope if you're the Nationals or the Padres before you make the trade, you hope that those guys are going to be half as talented, half as much of a big league superstar
bro,
as
let me
Juan
tell you
Soto.
this.
And they
This
made the move for
talk-
Soto, and now they have a guy who's that good in the major leagues. And the Nationals are in the position where they're hoping they hit on one or two of these guys.
Although,
So prospect
George, I can
hugging
step
makes
in,
no
though.
sense.
It
No, I
does-
can step in and I can actually defend the trade for the Nationals' perspective. Simply because Juan Soto was never going to sign an extension with them and was going to walk after 2 years.
Yeah.
So their choices were not Soto or no Soto. Their choices were no Soto and nothing because they're not going to contend in the next 2 years, or recouping as much value as you can because he's going to force his way out.
yeah.
So I sort of get that, but at the same time, like I think the criticism is more on other teams like the Cardinals, for instance.
If you trade
who-
him in the winter, don't you get more? I feel like more teams are willing to give up shit. Like, because right now we're in the middle of a race, right? And I feel like these teams, like for example, the Cardinals.
I
with his
think that-
contract
think that-
situation. Go ahead, Max.
Go ahead. Okay. I just think the deadline pushes things further, right? Like the
Yeah.
deadline in the off season is the start of spring training, or at least when players report. That's not a hard deadline by any means. And you've seen guys like Harper sign really late, their free agent contracts. You've seen trades go down super late. I said it last week or the last time we were on that like yes, there's that I did say last time that we were on that there would be some value in trading him in the offseason, but that I don't think that was going to happen. Clearly it didn't, but you maximize it with a deadline, and I think that's where you get it. And maybe they hold on to him for another year, wait another trade deadline, but you don't know where you're going to be at
that's
that
a year of
point.
control lost before.
Exactly.
So,
And
like, the
you
thing about
don't
Soto-
know if he could get injured. There's all that other stuff. It's not like he's going to drop off the face of the earth and then hit 200 for the entire season. He's Juan Soto, right? Like it's a pretty safe bet.
Kind of ass. Petco's kind of ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Max,
here's
is
the
this
thing,
the highest Soto's value will ever be? Does it have the potential to diminish from here on out?
I mean,
It
I
does.
think it goes.
He's playing for a new
it-
contract in 2 years. I don't think he's
Yeah.
going to drop his value.
No,
He wants to
I mean,
get that 500, 600 million that people have been, whispering about.
he's also not in his prime
Well, in a
yet.
trade context, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. it
Not
was
necessarily. Yes. Yeah.
best time.
Yeah, because he's gonna sign a really long-term contract. I don't think he's gonna pull a Correa and do like 3 years for $55 million or something.
yeah, but I don't think he's going to sign with San Diego.
I
Yeah,
don't
No,
was
either.
actually
and you know what?
talking
If the
about this
Padres window closes in the next 2 years, I doubt it does. They have
I think
Fernando
it might.
Tatis.
I
They
think we
have,
can go for it, like
a,
right
a
now.
solid rotation. They might win a World Series in the next 2 years. But if
Yeah.
their window closes in that time, 2 deadlines from right now, we could be talking about the prospect haul that the San
Yeah.
Diego Padres just got for Juan Soto
Exactly.
by trading him to the New York Yankees.
'Cause I was saying this to New York. Thank you.
If
I
it
was
didn't
saying this
happen
to
this
Matt.
time, it's never happening.
I mean, I was saying this to Max that the thing is that when we're talking about total values and stuff of teams, like the Yankees are $6 billion and they make like $600 million a year in revenue, and last year was like 499, which is a low. The Padres, meanwhile, make $299 million in revenue, and they have like a payroll now of like 250 million versus 230 of the Yankees out of the 600 million. So like I said it to Max this morning where I was like, I mean, I said it to Chip and I was like, I mean, they're gonna resign him, but then later I was talking to Max and I was like, wait, no, they actually, I don't think they can afford it because like if they're at 75% of their thing right now, then like they're how are they gonna sign Soto again? So like in 2 years when he's gonna be a free agent and he's a rental, there's gonna be some team that's gonna be able to use Juan Soto. I feel so bad for the guy. He's gonna keep getting traded and leaving to new places, but like that seems like the most like possible thing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's we can sort of talk about like what the next steps for Soto are. I don't actually think that is a worthwhile discussion yet. Especially since this first trade is only a handful of hours old.
Yeah.
I think that the more interesting topic about Soto is just I think the teams who deserve the scrutiny are not. Although I mean, look, the Nationals do deserve scrutiny for fumbling the asset on the whole, but they don't
all the assets.
Well, yeah, but yes and no. I mean, they were right to blow it up to a degree, and I think that their prospect haul, look, their window closed after 2019 when
It's
they won, and they won
slammed
it.
shut.
It's slammed shut, and they won. Good for them. Mission accomplished. It's fine. It really is fine.
But still,
they
when you have
legitimately
Max
had a core
Scherzer, you have Max Scherzer for 2 more years after 2019. You can't expect the pandemic, so we're not going to talk about that. You have Scherzer for 2 more years, 2020 and 2021. You have Juan Soto, who just came up a year earlier. You have Anthony Rendon, who leaves in free agency.
But why didn't they
Strasburg
get
is
Bryce
still
Harper?
healthy. Harper was gone already in 2019.
Yeah, but why didn't they get him? That's my thing. Like they legitimately had the core everyone like screams about. Like they had, if they brought back Harper, they had Juan Soto, they had Turner, they had Rendon, they had Scherzer, that freaking everyone right there. Like that's the sort of thing that we talk about. That's what everyone thinks like all these prospects are gonna be. Like everyone talking about like, oh yeah, you can have a Walker, but you can't have Carlson and Carlson sucks. Like he's like average at best right now. Walker is in the triple A. Like, or freaking like, oh, Volpe is like the next Derek Jeter. Like everyone thinks they have the core for this guy that they got, the Nationals, Hessel. Like, bro, he's in high A right now and he's smashing in high A. But I'm telling you, guys are talking about like this is a batting champion. Like this guy's gonna be a batting champion. I was like, he's in high A. Soto is actually a batting champion. Like
pretty much,
like,
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
what
I mean,
is this?
And look, Mo's exactly right. And he and I see very much eye to eye on this. It's again, I will, urge a little bit of clemency to the Nationals simply just because of the fact that they lost all of their leverage when they lost all their leverage and they lost the ability to keep Juan Soto, period. So like I don't think I'm not going to criticize them too much for doing what they did at this moment in time. And frankly, I'm not going to criticize them all that much. Look, if they were, a more financially loose team, I think they could have re-signed all their core, but you're not going to unless you are the Mets, unless you are the Dodgers, unless you are a George Steinbrenner-led Yankees.
Yeah, not this Yankees. This is the Rays.
Or Toronto, you're not going to sign like 6 guys to $250 million or more contracts. You're just not going to do it. So I understand them winning a World Series, saying, all right, we mission accomplished, the window's shut. And I understand Soto saying, look, I'm 23 and I'm on a team that's not going to contend for a while. I'd like to go elsewhere. So look, let's not forget that the only reason they're really here is because they won. The only reason the Nationals are really here is because they got a good core and won. So good for them. This is the other side of that. And that's fine. I think you pay that price.
Yeah.
Which sort of leads me to the fact that I think a lot of teams are very afraid of this and are very okay with wild card team year in, year out, and never really being a super high end team. And I just think that that's not satisfying to a fan base. It's boring. It's almost worse, in a way, because like during a rebuild, like, you know, rebuilds can be somewhat exciting because you track the prospects. You say like these could be the guys we win a World Series with because we don't have the guys at the major league level to do it now.
Sure.
But like the teams that do and need that extra step to get there and don't do it so they can have those lottery tickets are sort of burning the candle at both ends here. And I think they're just making their situation, they're making it worse. They're making it worse for their fan bases. They are, I think, worse than anything else, just allowing teams with a winning mindset. And I think there's a difference between a winning mindset necessarily and a willingness to spend money. I think if you are, an ownership group or an owner that has an absurd amount of money, big contracts are essentially free to you. They really are. Like, again, I don't want to bring up the Mets too much, but if you're Steve Cohen,
That ship sailed.
spending a ton of money on Scherzer is free to you. But when it comes time to pay a potential actual cost, like a Mark Vientos, who is your, I think third best prospect.
Or
And
even
he's tough.
Francisco Alvarez, the top prospect in all minor league baseball.
Well, look. The thing about Alvarez, like guys like Alvarez, like me, who I'm
Huge prospects.
I'm full Les Snead, full AJ Preller, fuck them picks, fuck them prospects, all of that stuff. But you don't trade Francisco Alvarez for a rental. So I think you dangle him for Soto.
No,
I think they did. And they said, we are not going to get booed because we're not going to get haunted by trading Juan Soto in division for the next 14, 15 years pass. So I get that. And so you take Alvarez off the table. You take even Brett Beatty off the table, their second ranked prospect. But you're not trading you're really not trading Mark Vientos for a chance to win a World Series. I mean, just to me, Mark Vientos is not so good a prospect that he's not worth the ticket to potentially win a World Series. I think that reward is much higher than anything he can give you, that potential reward. I just think in terms of and let's say, okay, you need a third baseman in a few years. First of all, or he's a first base DH type. Let's say you need that. You can sign it. You're Steve Cohen. Just sign it.
But you already have freaking Alonso, and you're gonna get Alonso again.
That's the other thing. Alonso's there. Alonso's there. Like it didn't make sense not to trade Mark Vientos for Mark Vientos and your 12th prospect for David Robertson and Wilson Contreras, which would have made the Mets a prime World Series contender.
And it's the same thing as the Yankees having 5 shortstops in their top 12 and not trading any of them or not wanting to trade any of them. It's like you were saying, you're rebuilding and you have your prospects, right? But there comes a time where you have those 3 or 4 prospects that start just becoming stars, right? Like the Yankees had Gary and they had Glaber and they had Judge and they had all these guys just start to come out of nowhere, right? That's when you're okay, now I have this team. Let me get this start. Let me get Bryce Harper to hit 100 home runs on the left porch, or let me do the stupid crazy stuff. But now we missed that window because we didn't get anyone in those years, and then we keep blaming freaking the Astros. Where
the thing with the Yankees, and Chip, you brought up a good point about teams that get complacent with contending. The Yankees haven't won a World Series.
Contention.
The Yankees haven't won a World Series since George Steinbrenner was alive. He wasn't, running the team in 2009, but the mindset for the Yankees for the last,
even what was it 2018? When Hank passed away, 2019, when Hal took over completely
in the last couple of years. I think it was 2020.
Yeah. Before that, we got Giancarlo, and then he passed away, and then it's just now we want none of the free agents at all.
Well, that's the thing that I was just getting into, was that the Yankees' priority, it has seemed, and they'll make the move for Garrett Cole. They'll sign him to a 9-year deal. They'll trade for Frankie Montas, which I think is a great move in this, pitching market right now. Obviously, I would have liked Pablo Lopez or Carlos Rodon in addition, but that didn't happen. I digress. I think what has happened to the Yankees in the Hal Steinbrenner era is complacency with contention. And what that means is let's keep, the streak of 30 plus years of finishing over 500. Let's put fans in seats. Let's make the playoffs. We're not going to make a move where it puts us over the top to win a World Series. We're not going to do what the Dodgers do. We're not going to do what the Mets do by signing Max Scherzer in a rotation that already had Jacob deGrom. We're not going to spend the money.
And nobody else though.
I'm gonna cry.
We're not going to spend the money
here's
to win a World Series because what we have right now works. It gets fans in seats. It brings money into the organization. And
Yeah,
we're
but
going
you
to
know what
turn
else
that
gets
money.
fans in
George, you know the
seats
Yankees
and makes
are the
money
best
team
than
in
winning
baseball
World
right now.
Series.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
hold on. All right, I got a couple things. First of all, I think I agreed in general that the Yankees are nowhere near as aggressive about winning as they were in previous years. That's obvious. That's abundantly true.
I mean,
But
this
at the
team
same
hasn't
time-
done anything electric since in an
Yeah.
offseason or a
No,
deadline.
I
Since they
understand.
got
I
CC
understand that.
Sabathia, AJ
Deadline?
Burnett, Mark Teixeira,
I
Nick
get it. I
Swisher.
get it. I get it. But the
So this
Yankees
is the
are the
best
odds-on
trade
favorites to win the
deadline
World
since
Series right
like
now.
I don't know forever, since for like 15 years.
Okay, but like here's the thing. Like you guys are first of all, the Yankees had a better deadline than most teams. They got Andrew Bennett. They didn't need as much. They didn't need big pieces to put them over the top.
Yeah,
They are
and they
there.
got everything.
They got everything they needed. They made themselves a prime World Series contender. I think that should they have gotten Soto? Yes.
They
But-
should have to put him over the top. That's
they are over the
Okay,
top. They
Mo,
are
the
there.
amount of texts that said Soto to Yanks confirmed that you sent me over the last 2 weeks.
To
I had to say
me,
it every day for it to come true. And
This
it's
is kind of why
didn't.
people
We're
hate
telling me about
Yankee
dreams
fans,
that you
though.
had. You would wake up in the middle of the night seeing Juan Soto in a Yankee jersey.
Yes, yes, that happened.
This is kind of why people hate Yankee fans, though, because they had one of the best deadlines in Major League Baseball, address needs, and have like the best or second best record in the entire sport, and are either first or second in betting odds to win the World Series. And like, okay, yeah, I get it. They aren't as committed as they were, but like. This was a conversation that is more appropriately had when they didn't sign Machado, when they didn't sign Harper, not when they are the best team in baseball and had a good deadline.
But also, like, we're talking about not wanting to spend money, but then you pick up Josh Donaldson and is all like that's the type of move where I'm like, wow, Cashman, you picked up Donaldson for only 10 million a year. You got 20 million back, but he does this for the whole 50 million, and then they sign Correa. Like, that's a real bad look. Like you needed a shortstop. You didn't sign one. You took on Donaldson. You got IKF, and then the team that you took on the money from go and sign Correa.
That goes back. That goes
Wow,
back
and then
to
they- and
holding on to prospects.
Yeah, like
the Yankees passed on an all-time historic shortstop class with Correa and Story and Seager and Semien and the other one and the other one, and they
You guys want one
bet
more?
the future of the shortstop position, Derek Jeter's position, to Anthony Volpe or Oswald Peraza or Trey
which
Sweeney
is fine.
or Roderick Arias, who I believe is a shortstop.
Yeah,
So
which is
they've got
fine.
all of these shortstop prospects. They're betting on the future, which I didn't hate at the time. But now it's like Donaldson's hitting 215.
Yeah.
IKF is making errors left and right. At what point do you say, all right, Peraza, you're a AAA, you're tearing it up over the last month or so? Ben, you and I were talking about
Oh, they should call
Peraza's
him up. Yeah, they should call
strengths
him
over
up.
the last month.
Potential of bringing him up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Bring
Ben,
Volpe
if
to
you want to
AAA.
talk about Peraza right here as the next shortstop in the New York Yankees,
Well, he's not
that's what
coming
you
up.
and I were talking about.
He's not coming.
Before
up.
we get to Peraza, Mo, you dropped a sobering stat when we first started. You were talking about the percentage of the Yankees' revenues that are used on payroll, and I think you were contrasting that with the Padres.
Padres, yeah.
And the Padres, although they spend, am I correct, Mo? They spend less, a gross amount less on.
They have a $299 million revenue, and they have 250 payroll right now with Soto. So it's like whatever that is.
All
like
of their
maybe-
revenue is
So-
going to payroll.
Yeah, they only
Right.
get
So the
50 million.
percentage of payroll, the percentage of revenue used on payroll by the Padres dwarfs that figure of the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees theoretically should be able to spend everybody into the ground, so far into the ground that they drop them off at China.
Yeah, honestly.
And now we're seeing financial austerity. And I mean, the only rationalization I can come up with is this.
Hell is the
Do you guys
best.
remember in the scene Moneyball where they're sitting in the war room and they're talking about recreating Jason Giambi in the aggregate?
In the aggregate, yeah.
The aggregate.
Three guys whose
and-
average OBP is 364.
Exactly. Hold on, let me check your math on that. Anyway, I think at some point, and maybe this is something that the Yankees have learned through being burned from, say, the A-Rod contract. At some point, you can only spend so much and get good results. It's diminished returns. At some point, you put a ton of inputs in, the outputs are going to kind of level off. It's the way I would kind of compare it is you love pizza. You eat pizza Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's good for the first 2 nights, and then you're sick of it by Friday. You're not getting a whole lot out of it.
Questionable. That might I think I could do that.
So Chip will disagree with me on that, but you can spend tens of millions of dollars, but at some point you're going to level off.
But
You're
it's
not
like
going to get the same results.
the
So
thing about it is
maybe
for the
Powell's looking for
Yankees-
just greater financial austerity, and he can kind of recreate championship teams in the aggregate by not surrounding, buying one big guy and trying to surround that big guy with lesser guys. Because when you put all of your money into that big guy, and the Yankees can do that, they have the flexibility for that. It's tough to build a team around. The same thing happened with A-Rod and the Rangers 20 years ago. Now, again, how much do you want to spend if you're the Yankees, and how much do you think you can get out of it? That's the only explanation I can come up with.
But like the reason that doesn't hold up, in my opinion, is okay, they're spending, but again, it's inefficient spending, right? Like 25 million, like you're really gonna penny pay, like they almost took Judge to arbitration over 2 million, but they're giving Josh Donaldson 25 million. They don't want to give a 27-year-old shortstop like 30 million, but they're fine giving a 36-year-old 25 for 2 years, right? And it's like, there's some guys that are like better deals than others, and Yankees are constantly like, they're scared of spending money because they chase the guy that everybody knew was a risk, right? Like Jacoby Ellsbury was a risk.
Don't say that name.
Freaking Brian McCann was still a risk. Like Carlos Beltran was a risk. Like these were all risks, right? Juan Soto is not a risk. If there's a freak accident, there is, but he's not a risk. Like there's like, like if we're talking about diminished returns and stuff, like if you're really like putting like it on a graph and you're like, okay, this is the best ROI, Juan Soto is the best ROI. And it's like, it's not like the Yankees are young. So like Chip was saying earlier, we're like, oh, you have a young core, you can trade away your prospects for better players. Well, we're at a position where like our average age is like 30, right? And like Giancarlo's always
That's what the Astros did. The Astros had Correa, Altuve, Bregman, Gurriel, Springer, and they traded prospects. All those guys were in their 20s except for Gurriel. They traded prospects and they brought in Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole.
Bro, that's what you're supposed to
No,
do.
George,
Like,
George, hold on. I'm going to push back on you there because, instead of having
trash cans, they brought in trash
teams that won a World Series and took them to deep playoff runs and won a lot of games, they could have had those prospects and they could have maybe ended up kind of good in a couple years. So sure. I don't know which one you'd rather have. Would you rather have the guaranteed really, really good baseball now, or maybe being pretty good in a couple years?
I have the guaranteed really, really good baseball now.
I mean,
no, it's so obvious. It's
you're
that
bringing us back to prospect hugging.
Is it guaranteed though? That's the problem.
Verlander is more guaranteed, man.
It's more guaranteed.
And you look again at the prospects that the Nationals got for Soto, and there were other deals that we'll talk about in a few minutes.
We're not mad at the Nationals because they have no leverage in our rebuilding.
Yeah.
Ben, you and I were talking about this earlier. What happens to Juan Soto, whether he re-signs with the Padres or not? This trade will impact the league for the next 5, 10, 15 years. You're going to see repercussions from this trade, a decade and a half from now.
Hindsight's always 20/20. I mean, we might be talking in 10, 15 years and say this was just the biggest steal ever for the Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
We might say that,
but that never happened.
Might be saying Soto's a Hall of Famer. can't predict the future entirely.
The thing is that never happens. We've seen history repeat itself over and over again. Like A-Rod. Okay, A-Rod wasn't for prospects, but like Miggy, right? That was for prospects. Like
Big
nobody
deal.
goes back and is like, oh yeah, that was nah. Like that doesn't really happen. There was a couple more that they talked about, like where some big trades at the deadline. Like what was it? Like Ricky Henderson came to the Yankees from the A's. It's like whenever people give up prospects, like the best that happens is they become like productive major leaguers. And
Almost
never
as
become
good
like
at
Hall of
best.
Fame.
Sure, but
never, but
You
never.
can name
ask-
exceptions.
But-
It happens.
but the big
You remember
difference,
the
guys-
Red Sox deal in the 90s? It was Heathcliff Slocum, was that his name? For
That's
Jason
not a real
Varitek
person.
and Derek Lowe, and you've got two. I hate mentioning this as a Yankees fan, but you get two prospects who form the core of your 04 championship team. And
Yeah,
that-
but,
any of
but
them
guys,
as good as,
guys,
like-
and
we're
that's just
forgetting
one-
about
just
the
one
main
example.
You're forgetting about the main difference here, right? And that's money. These guys weren't signing in their free agent contracts or their extension contracts for potentially $500+ million. It was like Miggy's deal in Detroit was, I don't know, like 2 something, maybe like
But
180.
that was like a record at the time, wasn't it?
It was a record at the time.
That's
right?
really what it is now, though.
But now he's built a
like
Hall of
it-
Fame career over 15 years there.
yeah.
I don't
So
think it comes down. Honestly,
it's
I don't
just
think it.
different.
I don't thi- I don't
It's so different. The game is it's a different beast than it was 20 years ago. There's so many more factors that come into play than just looking at stats on a page or looking at guys play baseball. There's the data analytics that go into determining, okay, we're going to try and project based off of, you know, batting average, ball in play, or FIP, or whatever these fucking crazy stats are that go out of nowhere, right? Like there's so much more to this game than there was 20 years ago.
But
And
so
you're
little,
bringing,
man.
I know, I understand that. And I'm
No.
telling Mo, we've talked about this so many times. He is an all-time player. And
Yes.
he's 23 years
Oh
old.
my god.
He's an all-time player. He's 23 years old. And we're still griping about how much money. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like whoever got Soto at this deadline, it ended up being the Padres. They win that deal. It
Easy.
doesn't matter.
Easy.
It does not matter who
It's
they
not
traded
even
him
a
for. It doesn't matter.
Not even a
Well, I mean, the
Padres
thing
won
is,
that
like,
deal.
The thing is, like, again, when you look at it in terms of hit rate, the hit rate in terms of like becoming a great major leaguer, the hit rate on Juan Soto is 100%. It's
Yeah.
happened already.
He's gonna get better now.
Yeah, that's
He's not
that-
even in his prime. Max
the
is just
the
saying.
hit rate
Yeah.
on prospects not great. However, again, I understand the Nationals. I'm not mad at the Nationals here. I'm mad at the teams who
Yeah.
didn't give up the prospects, and I'm really mad at the
We're
teams.
arguing about it.
Like again, here's I don't think the Yankees should get too much criticism on the whole deadline because they had a good deadline and are the best team in baseball and very well may win the World Series. But at the same time, they do deserve a little bit of criticism for not
A lot.
A offering a similar prospect package, and B,
Well, we don't know what they offered. We know they made an offer. We don't know what it
But they
was.
definitely
Right.
didn't offer this much.
there's no
because-
way they offered this much. And the
Aside
other
from
thing is-
Hetzel and Abrams, like the Yankees had more to give. Like who the hell is Susana, bro? Like who is this guy? He's like the rank
Well,
15 prospect.
Chip, you and I were talking about this weeks ago when Soto first announced that he wanted out. What team doesn't think that they would rather have Juan Soto than their top 5 prospects? If I'm the
Apparently
Yankees, if I'm the Yankees 2 weeks ago, and Mo, you and I've criticized you a lot over text for the last couple of weeks about this, but if you're the Yankees and you don't think that you'd rather have Juan Soto than Volpe, Peraza, Waldichuk, Wells, and Trey Sweeney,
Just go suck a dick.
just saying, Chip was just saying, Soto is the established
Yeah, like,
MLB
get
superstar.
fired.
He's a 100% guarantee of
And
being
he's
a
the
top
same
player.
age
top
as some of these
player in the
guys.
Oh
league.
my
Like,
god. Like all the Dodgers prospects are 23, 24. So like, and I just want to say this, like, I still do blame the Yankees and I hate the Yankees for this, but there were some rumors that, you know, like Rizzo didn't like value some of the Yankee prospects.
Mike
high.
Rizzo?
Yeah. So like Mike Rizzo,
No,
didn't
Anthony
like
Rizzo didn't value
Volpe.
the Yankees.
Yeah, he
prospect.
didn't like he didn't like Volpe as much as he like some other guys, which is like fine. I think the Yankees were trying to take some guys off the table. But okay, let's say that Rizzo just didn't like it. But that's where I blame the Cardinals even more because they had
Yeah, they
everything.
screwed up.
But they decided not like okay, so after they got Monty and they got Quintana, which they needed pitching, if they got Soto, Monty, Quintana, that is an incredible deadline, and they're already a good team, and they fix like their things and they become like a really good team, right? And then he already worships Pujols, Arenado's there, Goldie's there. Like that team, he might stay just for the history of like the Dominican Albert Pujols being there and like him being like the spiritual successor and stuff. Like I could see that happening, but they
See him signing with the Cardinals in 2.5 years.
Yeah, but they fumbled the bag more
especially
than
if
any other
Arenado lost,
team.
They fumbled the bag.
Because who the hell is Walker? And who the hell is Carlson? And who the hell is Gorman? And who the hell is Wynn? And like, I swear to God, Cardinals fans are like so, and Yankees fans too, are so delusional. They're like, oh yeah, like Walker, he's like the next. Soto played 122 games in the minor leagues total. In his rookie season, he played 118 games in the major leagues, and he hit 292 with an over 900 OPS. Like, these guys, these prospects have all played over 122 games. Like Anthony Volpe's played like 230. Freaking the other day, like
I think Vlad
Jason
Jr. is at
Dominguez-
like 280 or something. Was at like
289.
280 or something. Yeah.
Jason Dominguez missed a whole year of baseball, and he's only played like 135.
He's a pitcher though. He's a pitcher though. Here's the thing, Mo.
Jason Dominguez, he's a center fielder.
JC, yeah,
Oh
Jason
wait,
outfielder.
really? I thought he was. Isn't he's the Martian, right?
Yeah, the Martian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought,
Outfielder.
I thought
Mike
never
Trout.
mind. I thought he was a pitcher.
Bro, he's
Never
Mike
mind.
Trout.
Never mind. That never happened. Anyway, but like, here's the thing you're not really getting about Walker is that like he's really good.
He's
He could
doing
even
really
be-
well.
He could even be the next Juan Soto.
Isn't he? But he's 20.
I would rather
That's the
have-
thing. He's 20. Juan Soto was 18.
No, I'm joking, dude. I'm joking. I'm saying, oh my god. Anyway, like no, like, I just think that, unless you are rebuilding, unless you have no reasonable path to a World Series and you are rebuilding, you trade prospects are bait. Prospects become bait. You are fishing and you're putting prospects on the hook. That's what like the Dodgers at this point. And look, in large part, they get to do this because they draft and develop so well, and that's why infrastructure is critical on critical. But the Dodgers, their top prospects almost never see the major leagues with them. Not even Yordan Alvarez. And guess what? You think they care they traded Yordan Alvarez? They don't give a shit. They don't care.
Well,
And that was the
imagine
worst
Jordan
trade
as the
ever.
DH in that Dodgers lineup.
Josh
Oh,
Fields, man.
Yeah.
Josh
Oh, look,
Fields.
I understand why you would say that, but at the same time, they don't regret the process
Right.
Oh, yeah.
that led to them doing that because it got them there. It got them here. It got them Trey Turner. It got them Mookie Betts. It got them, well, not Freddie Freeman, but
Yeah, but that's the thing, bro.
Max
Just
Scherzer
sign
last
these
year.
guys. Just sign these guys in free agency. Like these teams have the ability to do that. Like, oh, you miss out. Jordan goes on the other team and he's like freaking like he's balling out and he's like an all-star MVP candidate. Okay, well, the next guy is gonna come up. You just sign him for $300 million. You're the Dodgers, you're the new Yankees. You're out yanking the Yankees. Go for it.
Yeah.
the Yankees are like, but like the problem is the league doesn't revolve around the Yankees, and it did for a while. It doesn't. It's over,
It
and that,
revolves around
I
the
think that's
Dodgers.
better for the game. But like it doesn't. I don't think it revolves around the Dodgers necessarily either because they've won.
Revolves
one World
around
Series.
players.
Okay,
Does
that's
it does it though? Like, okay,
It
so
doesn't.
my thinking with that, George, is that what has Major League Baseball done that has made significant strides to actually market players and not the game in a really like good way? I mean, obviously we've got the Field of Dreams game, we've got a lot of the fun series and everything. Players Weekend I think is great to expose them to.
Players
Yeah,
Weekend,
the
which
up
they
and down.
also haven't done since 2019.
Yeah, it's coming back this year. I think it's Boston and
it?
Baltimore.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah.
That's not what George meant by players, though. George meant players by
No,
having good players on your team. And that's a very college football sort of view of it, which I think is right. I mean, like you look at the NFL, you look at Les Snead, who's trading every first round pick because you hope the first round pick becomes the guy you traded for. And that's a little more squirrely in a salary cap league like the NFL. But if you are a big money team that doesn't have to care about the luxury tax, like you need to blow by it. And look, we should be, instead of criticizing all of the teams that fumble the bag, we should be, I think, focusing on the sort of process that AJ Preller is putting together
Oh
in
my
San
God.
Diego, which AJ, look, people are like, oh, he's playing it like it's MLB The Show. He's playing it like it's Madden. Well, here's the thing. All the
That's
Madden
it.
kids grew up and they are now running sports teams, and they are Les Snead and they are AJ Preller and they are whoever runs the Dodgers, whatever shadow government runs the Dodgers.
Andrew
Friedman.
Friedman.
Yeah. So whatever,
Shadow government.
Go
Andrew
Mets.
Friedman and the Court of Owls who
Go Mets.
runs the Dodgers. But like, the fact of the matter is, I think one thing younger generations have understood through the, not just through these games, but a lot of the more modern execs that have sort of taken that approach into into their actual jobs, is that like sports is about, yes, it's about having good infrastructure, it's about having good development, it's about having good coaching. That can all be controlled pretty easily, if you're good at it. It's not as hard to get as player assets. But the fact of the matter is, sports really comes down to having better players than the opponents. And no sport makes this more clear than college football. But I think it's pretty clear in baseball too, on the whole. And AJ Preller gets this, and he just loaded up his roster, and now the Padres are probably the best team in baseball.
It's like, yo,
But you look at what the
That's
Padres
not-
got. They got Josh Hader. They got
Best
Brandon
reliever in
Drury.
baseball.
Oh my God.
They
Stop
got the
the
best
guy.
reliever in baseball, the best hitter in baseball, a like high
They
OPS,
fixed their
high
black
impact
hole,
stat
too.
in Drury, and they got Josh Bell, who's like top 20 in WRC plus and has an 872 OPS.
And
They
it's
got
like
three
their
all-stars.
black hole was first base, and they got the first baseman, and they got it for a haul where like people are like, this can't get Soto, and they got Soto and Bell.
And all it
Like,
cost them was shipping Eric Hosmer to Boston and locking Luke Voigt up in Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
Eric
it's
Hosmer was the most
man.
famous man in America for about
But it's
30
like
years.
so many years that he's been doing this, and he's been adding like one piece here, one piece there, one piece here, and
going
like
for it.
he had like that little like Hosmer started it all. He's the one who started everything. To be honest, for Padres, like that's the first guy that like got the big contract for the Padres, and then anyways Machado and Tatis. But like he went and he got like, okay, this pitcher's available, let me get this guy. All right, this guy's available, let me. And everyone's like, nah, Padres still
Clevenger,
suck, man.
Snell,
Yeah.
Mania.
And everyone's like,
Musgrove.
Padres still suck. He's getting like this, but like there's nothing there. Like Padres still suck. They're not gonna do anything. It's not quality team. All of a sudden he goes and get Hader. Everyone's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. But now he's out of Soto. Like, and then we got the return for Hader, and we were like, wait, he has all his top prospects still on the table. And they're like, no way he does a Hader, Soto, Bell. Like Chip and I went back and forth about this for so long. We were like, that return is garbage. It's trash. Every other team can offer more.
Well,
All of a
okay,
sudden-
not every other team, some teams.
yeah, like the teams that are competing for him, right? Like the Dodgers and the Yankees.
Well, that was before. In our defense, we did say that before they added Mackenzie Gore, but like,
yeah.
the
But
thing
Gore's
is-
broken right now.
yeah, he'll be fine. But like the thing is,
He's broken, but he's
The
a former
thing is-
first-round pick
Yeah, but he's
with
broken, and
big
the
league
thing is,
experience.
he's had up and downs, man. It's like there's this issue with him where like he loses his mechanics, and then like he just becomes shit, or it's like he has
Anybody-
it. and he's, like, ace
anybody who has
It's a
potential.
watched
rookie.
baseball-
He's got what 100 innings under his belt.
anybody
give
who
him
has watched
time.
baseball in the
Yeah.
last 5 years needs to understand that you got to be patient with talented pitchers. You look at guys like Kevin Kuzman, Zach Wheeler. Sometimes these guys take forever. So Mackenzie
Everybody who
Gore-
went through the Giants pitching machine last year, Anthony DeSclafani, right? He
Yeah,
was
he's stuck
nobody.
now,
He was
I think.
nobody, and well, he's hurt. He's only thrown
He's
in
still
3 games
nobody.
this year.
He's still
Carlos Ro-
nobody.
like
He had a
Carlos
sub-4
Rodon
ERA
got
last year.
hurt. Carlos Rodon
Rodon has
hurt.
been, first of all,
He-
as a
he
Giants
got a-
fan, I think the Giants should have traded Rodon. They couldn't
Yeah,
agree
they
with the
should.
price because he was probably going to be a rental. If he stays healthy, he's going to opt out. But you know what? If I'm a team looking to contend right now, like the Yankees, if they did or did not get Frankie Montas, go out and get Carlos Rodon. I don't care if he's a rental. Give up a couple of, top 10 blue chip prospects. He's the guy that wins you a game in the playoffs. And in a short series, which they're going to have as the 1 or 2 seed in the American League, you need guys who can win you games. You're not going to have Garrett Cole 5 times in a 5-game
You
series.
need the guy
You're
who
not
can
gonna
throw
have-
the angry fastball.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the pitching ninja thing with him. He's like, I throw angry fastballs.
And then you
I
look
don't
at a
thi- I
team like
don't-
the Toronto Blue Jays, who did practically nothing. They picked up a couple of relievers from the Marlins a few hours before the deadline. The Blue
With
Jays,
Merrifield.
But Merrifield,
Merrifield, well, he's got to get vaccinated first.
Yeah.
He's going to. He's on the freaking.
But you look at it at a team like the Blue Jays, you look at a team like the Mets, and I'm sorry to bring them up again, Chip. You look at a team
they
like
threw their entire window away today.
Tampa
like-
Bay, or the Astros didn't do a whole lot.
I mean, they added Mancini
Oh, yes,
and
they did.
Vasquez. That's enough, man. Like they added Will Smith, Mancini, Vasquez. That's
None
what
of,
Yankees
none of them
needed.
moves. None of those 3 guys moves the needle for me.
I
for
mean,
the
man,
Astros.
they did it planning for the Yankees, right? Mancini is a Yankee killer. Vasquez is also a Yankee killer. Will Smith
true.
sucked. So they did it like both these guys did it for each other.
But there are
The Astros
plenty
are
of
far too
contenders.
analytical of an organization to do that.
There are
They're not
plenty
gonna
of
think-
contenders who should have done more at this
Yeah.
deadline. And then you got teams like the Brewers, first place in the NL Central by 3 games
That's
going into the
embarrassing. That was
deadline,
embarrassing.
trading Josh Hader, who's a top 3 reliever in baseball.
It's because 17 million next year.
You're a first place team with championship aspirations.
Yeah, but they don't want to
That's-
pay.
Give
that's-
Christian
that's-
Yelich a huge deal.
That's a loser move. That's
Why
a-
are the
that's
Brewers
a
moving
loser
on
move.
from Josh Hader? Why do you see teams like the Giants moving guys like Darren Ruff or Kurt Casale, but holding on to your bigger chips in Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson?
Or isn't Ruff like 36? Why is he considered something like great?
To be
I don't
fair,
understand.
I haven't looked too closely at the Mets prospects that went back to the Giants, but the Giants
They
got
suck.
JD Davis and a couple of prospects
They
for
suck,
Darren
George.
Ruff.
They suck.
Or isn't Darren Ruff like 36? I don't. What are we getting here?
The Giants
I'm
player
confused.
development is good enough that I can take a flyer on 2 prospects in JD Davis.
Yeah, no, especially for Darren Ruff, who's not anything. He's a corpse.
Right.
So, like, but so the Mets not to play devil's advocate, because again, I believe they threw away their any chance at a World Series for the next 7 years. I think they blew it big time.
They're winning the
But-
World Series in 2037.
Never like
That's going to happen.
Yeah, no, they're gonna lose.
I wanted
in the
Yankees
first round
back.
that year. Well, but like the Mets, what the Mets were trying to do is they're trying to sort of Frankenstein a DH, which is a term I saw on Twitter used for it, in the sense that they have a guy who rakes against righties in Vogelbach, and now they have a guy who rakes against lefties in Darren Ruff. So they're gonna platoon that. That's the kind of move that's really smart, really smart if you're the Oakland Athletics, and not Steve Cohen. So I think all in all, it was pretty embarrassing deadline. I think if the Mets can keep DeGrom healthy, I don't want to.
If you can go onto a playoff series with DeGrom, a healthy DeGrom, Scherzer, Taijuan Walker's been outstanding for the last couple of months.
Chris Bassett's
Chris
Chris
underlined.
Bassett's still there.
Chris Bassett's really good. I don't care what his ERA is. He's really good.
You've got Edwin
He
Diaz
had
at the
those
back
rough
end.
starts like early on, and then like he just started going ham again.
You've got Edwin Diaz at the back end, so you know that every game is going to be 8 innings.
Right.
You've got Pete Alonso, who's one of the most prodigious power hitters in the league right now.
Pete's overrated.
He
No,
is.
he's not.
I would agree with you that Pete Alonso is
No,
overrated.
he's like top 10 in WRC right now. He's really good.
He's
The
really
Mets,
good.
I took them in our very first episode of the show. I took the Mets to win the NL East. The Braves added a few guys at this deadline. I still take the Mets in the National League East.
It's
I'm
kinda
doubling
crazy.
down on that.
I'm actually going to change my mind, and I think if DeGrom stays healthy, the Mets are going to win the NL East because their schedule over the rest of the year is just it's cake, especially since all those teams have traded all of their players. So it's cake. So I think they are, again, if DeGrom stays healthy. And the other thing is like DeGrom, which is the other big news item of the day. I think it's as big as pretty much as big a news item in baseball as any of the trades, except for Soto, which is absurd. But he looked really good.
Well, of course he looked good. Like it's
No,
Jacob.
no, no,
like,
but like he looked
He's
healthy.
probably the
and
best
he looked-
pitcher on the planet.
Right,
Ever
no,
in the history of
yeah.
pitchers.
He looked healthy. He looked comfortable. His body language was really good after the start. He said he's going to pitch again on Sunday, which means his arm is feeling really good. His velocity sat 99 to 102.
He's fine.
Yeah, well,
Bro, 5 years ago, these guys didn't used to hit 100 like this. Now all of a sudden, everyone's hit. Like I remember when Garrett
DeGrom
Cole
hit
was
it
at
7 or 8 times in the first 3 innings.
How
Despite
did
having
he-
not pitched in 13 months. He threw a 95-mile-an-hour slider in the first inning, a 94-mile-an-hour changeup.
Dude, the Mets are going to be fine. They could have done nothing at the deadline, and they were going to be
Yeah.
Right. But
fine.
the problem is that's a loser mindset. A winner mindset is look how good we are. Let's go get absurd.
Yeah, let's
that
go
I
freaking
agree
put it
with
over
that,
the
Chip.
top.
Like the whole point of being a contender is to take that next step, find a weakness in your lineup, and fill it with some guy that's gonna put you over the top and is gonna let you beat the other teams into the ground in October.
I hate
Or
using this
trade Jordan
example.
Montgomery for Harrison Bader.
Yeah, or that. I hate using that example, but literally, like, it's just fantasy baseball. But like, literally, what I did like 40 trades. Like, I swear to
You've
God,
done like
I had a trade-
100 trades.
I had to trade like every day because I looked at my thing. I was like, wait, I could leverage this guy to get better here. And I just kept doing that until I was
Yeah.
happy with my roster. And then like it's like
Now
the
you've
same
lost
thing.
one game all season.
Yeah,
Okay, but that
that's
was
what I
only
did
because I
too.
made
And the
a
only
trade
person who's beating me
too
now is
early.
Mo.
I made the
It-
trade too early, man. Like I gave Shady the freaking I gave him the player that beat me. I gave him the pitcher that
Podcast
I
viewers,
needed.
that's a person we know.
Yeah.
Shady's our
The
buddy.
one guy that beat me. And freaking I gave him the pitcher that I needed to pitch the next day, one day too early. And then he ended up pitching against me and I lost.
Well, I mean, like the thing about fantasy baseball is that it's just like you gotta the thing of, and we could talk a little fantasy.
I don't
'cause
care
people-
about fantasy. I'm just saying like it's about that.
No,
like,
viewers are
cost.
probably playing fantasy, but like the thing is about fantasy is and the thing that has really made me so good at it and the second best at it behind this guy is although not last year. That happened, just saying.
Everyone got hurt and my grandpa died, okay? I was in a weird
Okay.
mental state.
Okay, yeah, dude. I got family members dying too, bro. I'm still gonna
Okay.
go-
So
still
trade
going through it.
deadline.
no, we're finishing this conversation. But like the thing about fantasy, and this is some good fantasy advice for all you out there, is you have to follow and take stock of every trade that is made in your league, all of them. And you have to know what people value. So I figured out that Shady values like contemporarily successful pitching and does not look at like underlying stuff.
Yeah.
And he likes volume. So you can trade him like 3 guys and he'll basically add
Yeah.
it up, which is silly because the roster spots stay the same.
I freaking got Soto.
That's how Mo conned Soto from him. So when I saw that trade, I'm like, all right, this is how I'm gonna work him. That's fantasy.
It wasn't
Good
a
thing there
con.
are no
Okay? I
prospects.
gave him
though.
Wander.
Good thing there are no prospects because I would trade them all.
Yeah, I would too.
Look,
But that's
let's
what I
see
did. I had
AJ
Alec
Preller.
Thomas, Wander, and Gore, and I traded them for Soto.
Okay, but like they are still current.
You also gave me Rodon for Wander, so thank you for that.
Yeah, but I gave him Shohei Ohtani.
Anyway,
That was,
so
bro, the thing is, I never expected that happening. Like Max offered that to me. I just clicked interest, and then he just like offered it to me right
Chip,
after I
that's
traded
Chip,
it
that's
with
your
Trout.
bad.
Yeah,
And I was
Um,
like, wait, is he really like he wants to do this?
I thought Chris Bassett was going to be a 16 point per game starter. I thought
I
that
did
was going to
too.
be better than Ohtani, and I thought which is ridiculous because he might
that
win the
was-
Cy Young.
Bassett's
but-
been good. Like, I mean, I thought so too. I picked him with my like 40th pick. It was just that like he regressed, and then Shohei became freaking like the best pitcher in the on the planet. He became Nolan Ryan. Like I don't know what happened. Like
All
not
right.
gonna complain about
So
it.
as we wrap up here, winners and losers of the trade deadline. Let's start with Ben.
Ooh, winners and losers of the trade deadline. Oh boy. I can't go for the Soto deal because that's so to be determined, isn't it?
No.
Well, in the immediate future, it's the Padres.
Right. Yeah, but you never know. I really do like the way, say for the Jordan Montgomery deal, I like the way that the Yankees handled things. I thought it was deliberate, nothing too radical. I think they shored up some. I mean, they didn't really need to do anything. Losers. I'm perplexed by the Phillies deals.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, the return on the David Robertson deal is so far my favorite trade. Look up who the Phillies traded for David Robertson.
Nobody.
yeah.
It was like
They got
No, look up the name of the guy.
Ben Brown.
Congratulations on
So I'm going to Chicago, but they try to get Brandon Marsh to shore up their defense. Chip, don't jump on me here. They traded a catching prospect, their top prospect. The Phillies.
That was a bad
farm
system
is
move
just
because Brandon Marsh isn't a real person. He sucks.
well, the
They
Phillies
traded
farm
for
system
Noah
is garbage to
Syndergaard,
begin
too.
with, unfortunately, and Ohapi was expected to be one of the few bright spots because we're going to see Real Muto regress and catchers are at a premium. So I'm completely puzzled by that. To give up a catching prospect when your farm system is already a good catching prospect when your farm system is already subpar for just a defensive shore up. I mean, the Phillies are just treading water right now. They'll probably get the third wild card by the skin of their teeth, and that'll be the third and final NL East team to make the playoffs.
That's true.
Yeah. I think I totally agree with you about the Phillies. I don't think Noah Syndergaard changes your calculus that much.
Yeah.
He's pretty much he went from Infinity War Thor with the Mets to first half of Endgame Thor with the Angels. So, so I mean, like,
Good
yeah,
analogy.
I think the Phillies are a loser. I think a weird loser is the Dodgers because they were in on a lot of guys and failed. Look, they get a pass for it because they got a huge piece at the deadline last year. That's a big piece now in Trey Turner, and they're the Dodgers. But I think that they should have been able to also, honestly, if they really wanted Soto, they should have gotten him. And given the fact that they're the Dodgers and they're loaded, they should have offered to take on Patrick Corbin's contract to finish the deal.
So actually, I was reading on that. The reason that didn't happen is because their top prospects are older. So Rizzo actually didn't want Curtaya because he's a catcher and he just got Ruiz, like we were talking about. And then like Bush and then all the other guys are like 24. You don't want 24-year-olds for your 23-year-old superstar.
Yeah, I just feel like the Dodgers have a winning enough mindset to make moves that help them, and they sort of didn't, even though they were in on guys. So I think they're a loser a little bit today. I don't think they care that much. They're fine. Because like they have too many, like they have like 7 starting pitchers. They have like built-in depth, but like, so I think they had a tough one. I think the biggest loser though, and one that they as an organization may regret for a very long time is the Mets. I think, the Mets have their best team in 16 years. They have not been this good since 2006. DeGrom
2015?
No, I mean they sort of caught they were an okay team that caught lightning in a bottle. This team is really good. This team is almost 30 games over 500. That team scratched to 90 games, 90 wins. But like so they weren't this good. But even then they traded for Cespedes at the deadline. Like they got a big bat at the deadline. So they did more than under the damn Wilpons. They did more than they did now. But like this team is the best team they've had, best regular season team they've had in almost 2 decades. DeGrom is 34, frequently injured, so you have no idea what his real shelf life is, and is opting out at the end of the year. Now I assume he will probably be back, but that's suddenly not a total guarantee. And you want to maximize, while you have the greatest pitcher on the planet. Max Scherzer, the other almost greatest pitcher on the planet, is 38 years old. So he's, he could fall off a cliff at any moment. It's not going to happen this year because he's great still. But next year
he's 50.
What?
He's pitching till he's 50, bro. Verlander's still going strong. Scherzer's not gonna fall short to Verlander. This guy's like a dog. To be like, I'm
No,
pitching until I'm
I mean, I really think he might. I think that he could. He's got only 2 years left on his deal, and he's probably gonna either retire after that or not be good. So you can't plan on it. You can't plan on a 38-year-old pitcher maintaining, top 3, 4 in the league level production. So your window with those guys could be as short as until the end of this season. And you have, again, the best team you've had in 16 years and a starving fan base, an owner that said he wants to win a World Series in 3 to 5 years, and some prospect capital to make some real moves. They did nothing. They added at the margins. They had an Oakland Athletics wild card deadline.
Bro,
I think that
Contreras.
I think that they needed an impact bat and 2 high leverage arms. They got a mid leverage arm and fringe bats. So I think if the Mets say get eliminated early, and let's say DeGrom either God forbid signs somewhere else or comes back and just struggles with injuries for the next 2 years, and Scherzer falls off, and you struggle, and you're not in contention for a World Series, and then all of a sudden your core with those 2 guys has sort of aged out, and you have to retool, and you're entering a 3 to 5 year rebuild. At that point, we're going to be saying, "Gee, we had a shot." And given the fact that it's the Mets, and given the Mets' history, if it goes the way the last 20 years have gone, which I suspect won't be the case because they have money now, it'll be a little better at least. But if that is the case, like I remember we all said after 2015, wow, look at these young pitchers. We're going to be here for a long time. And they weren't. So I thought we'd learned the lesson that when you have your shot, you have to go for it. And I just think that if the Mets window does close after this year, they will regret this for a long time. And in New York, they will never hear the end of it.
Max,
So
Mo, what do you guys think?
I didn't do a winner. Winners Padres, obviously. Duh.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone thinks the Padres are winners. I think so. My loser is the Dodgers are one of my biggest losers, and the Mets for all the reasons that Chip said. So I'm not gonna read, but I want to get into the Dodgers. So the Dodgers are really good. They spent money. They did what they did, right? But the thing is, they didn't go after any like other bats. And it's like they used to be the best lineup in my opinion, and now it's like they sort of let the Padres, like everyone kept saying, oh yeah, the Padres, AJ Preller, yeah, it's nothing. But this lineup all of a sudden just added 3 impact bats, and one of them like replaced their black hole. Like Hosmer was a black hole. Like when Hosmer was hot, this team was like on fire.
Yeah.
And so now Hosmer was like a black hole. So now all of a sudden you had Josh Bell. You obviously had like a generational hitter. You have Brandon Drury, who's just doing crazy shit, and then Tatis is gonna come back soon. So now all of a sudden, that's literally half your lineup that is different now, and now it makes every other lineup in baseball look like freaking chumps. So it's like
they look like the old Yankees, honestly.
Yeah, it's just like this lineup is so good. Where like, and I'm not okay. Obviously, the Dodgers couldn't get Soto because of whatever, but there were other guys on the market where like the Dodgers could have been like, oh yeah, let me get this guy or this. Like, they could have just added like Contreras to be like the freaking DH or something. Like they figure something out. But like Muncy and Bellinger are absolute trash. What did they get? They got Joey Gallo. Like I mean, look, I feel bad for Joey Gallo, but like good luck Dodgers. Like good luck. Like I think the Yankees broke him, and I feel so bad for him, but I don't think he's gonna find it again because like that's it. And then my other thing, I was like, oh, Yankees, like, okay, we didn't get Soto. I'm disappointed, like, blah, blah, blah. We're like winning the thing. And then right at the deadline, he like fumbled the bag and we needed pitching depth. We got rid of our pitcher who has been solid, even though he gets hate. He's been really solid for Harrison Bader, who's basically like Hicks 2.0 with a lot better defense. It's like,
do not call the Yankees a deadline loser. Come on.
No, he's a loser. They're a loser, man. We got rid of a pitcher. Bro, Herman is going to be our
you added a borderline ace, a high leverage arm.
2 high leverage arms.
because
Yeah,
Herman is gonna be
two high
freaking
leverage arms
fifth starter.
and a very solid hitter. The Yankees got much better. It's not a-
Herman's gonna be our fifth starter, man. We don't have a
oh
fifth
no, the
starter
fifth
anymore.
starter that doesn't get used in the playoffs.
The thing is, that's like it's important for us because our pitching always lets us down, right? Montas
No, it
hasn't
doesn't.
pitched for us. It really does. Our pitching
Montgomery
has
wasn't
so
going to
much.
start in the playoffs.
Yeah, but the
No,
thing
I
is,
actually
right?
think
I think he
the
would.
Yankees know Montgomery's not actually really that good, and they tried to sell as high as possible on him to a team that was desperate for pitching. When they're going to use a 4-man rotation in the playoffs, like every other team, and Herman is not a terrible.
Yeah,
And-
the Yankees playoff rotation is going to be Cole, Montas,
The Yankees are a winner.
Cortez, Severino. If he's healthy, Tyone if he's not.
That's a really good rotation.
You know,
With that lineup and that bullpen, that's a great rotation. The
But I
Yankees
just
aren't
think,
a loser; they're a winner.
but I think there was still like there's still
Kind of spoiled by 2000.
maybe I am, bro. The thing is, like, we've been one piece away for so long, right? Just like you were saying, like, oh, you gotta take your chance. Like we've been right there.
They did. They
We've
had a
been-
great deadline. They traded for a
That
borderline
is-
ace in Frankie Montes.
But
That's a big get. They
borderline
two high
ace,
leverage arms.
that's
Andrew
literally-
Benintendi.
the reason I'm not gonna trust that right now until he pitches for us a few times is because that's what we got in Sonny Gray, and then Sonny Gray blew up in our face. Like it's like we have such. I mean, obviously Larry Rothschild versus Matt Blake, very different. But like
Night and
you know
day.
what? I'm gonna and then like bro, like Harrison Bader, just it doesn't make sense to me because he's like okay, he's
Bader's
really, really
he's a
good defensively.
great defensive center
Great,
fielder. The Yankees'
incredible
only
defensive-
position with negative defensive runs saved
But
this year.
it's like,
has
man,
been
we
center
already
field.
have like we already
George
have
gets it.
Hicks.
George
We
gets it.
already have
I
like
think a lot of Yankee fans and I think George is insulated from this because he's also a member of another fan base, which I think gives him the sort of antibodies he needs to not become this. I think Yankee fans really want to be Mets fans in the sense that like they sort of like it's not that bad. They're not a loser at the deadline. They're not.
But the thing is, right?
they're not
for
more of
me,
a.
it's
They're
like-
not more. They're not a loser at the deadline. They are a winner.
Bro, the
No, I'm
last time we won a
absolutely gonna
World
call-
Series, I didn't know shit about baseball. Like I was like, I just used to watch. Like I didn't like. I just used to watch. You know.
I just think
like,
you want the Yankees to get back to an ideal you think that they are, and while that's suboptimal, and they should be, being the Yankees because they have the revenue, it doesn't make them a loser. It just makes them slightly
in
underwhelming.
my book, it makes him a loser. But anyways, right? My other loser, right? My actual loser will be the Blue Jays, right? They did nothing. That's a really good team. Then you got Vlad, you got Teoscar Hernandez, you got Bo Bichetti, you got Circle Man Kirk. Just freaking I don't know what this guy is. What is this guy? He's so good. Why is he so good? And then Matt Chapman all of a sudden is just on fire. Like I
Springer,
don't-
Gurriel.
Springer, yeah, I forgot about Springer. Okay, Gurriel is kind of I don't know what it
Hitting over
is.
300. Solid contact bat. The thing about the Blue Jays, I actually understand them standing pat at the deadline, simply because they are actually a team that is young and controllable and has a core and has a future. So I think that
It's also like
them-
they could have
they-
added some big guy because Moreno is very valuable, and now you have Kirk and you have Jensen. You could move some of those top prospects. You could get a big piece in return.
but like I think they're looking to potentially do that in the offseason or at next year's deadline if they're better. I just don't think they're good enough to push all the chips in right now. They're just not. They're a wild card team, and sure they
the
could.
Yankees are just too good. So
Sure they could. Yeah, well, yeah, they are too good, which is
Yeah,
why you should
the
stop.
Blue Jays
complaining.
aren't catching the Yankees. Nobody's
Yeah,
catching the
right.
Yankees in the American League East.
So the Blue Jay, I think the Blue Jays plan is to keep your guys, wait for the off season to sort of make your moves and go for it next year, which they can do because their window's wide open. So I think that's the move. I don't think they're a loser. If they were, within 5 or 6 games of the Yankees, I'd say they were a loser, but they're not. I mean, they're never catching them. So I think I don't think they're certainly not a winner either, but they are, they took the Mets approach, which is sort of split the difference between win now, get a little bit better and, win in the future when the Mets window is very short and the Blue Jays window is wide open. So I don't think they're a loser. I think their process is totally
I
fine.
think that they should have done something bigger, right? But anyways, instead of a winner, I want to pick a last loser because in my book, the only winners are AJ Preller and the San Diego Padres. But the Orioles are the biggest loser because they were kind of good and they sold some important pieces. And it's like, you just, why did you do that? And
Yeah.
it's confusing. It's like they're building something special, and then they're sort of sending out the message. We're like, yeah, we don't really care if we're building something special. And like, okay, Mancini's older, but like Max said this to me. He's like that's the heart of the team. Like he really was the heart of the team. You just got rid of their soul.
Well,
And then
also they traded Jorge Lopez for 4 Twins
Yeah.
prospects. So yeah, the
Freaking-
Orioles were one of my losers that I was going to bring up for all the reasons that we just mentioned. Another loser for me is I really hate to say it, but the Giants, they're at 500 right now. They're, in the midst of one of the worst month-long stretches I think I've seen as a Giants fan over the last, 25 years, however long I've been following over the 25 years I've been alive. But, they moved the fringe pieces. They kept a couple of the bigger pieces. But what are you going to do besides compete for a wild card spot right now? Like, I don't think the Giants, I think they might get into the playoffs. The National League wildcard race is pretty open right now. There are 4 or 5 teams for 3 spots. I think they could sneak into the playoffs and play like the Brewers or Cardinals in that first 3-game set. Who knows? They could catch fire in late September. They didn't really do anything to move the needle. They didn't add. They subtracted a couple of minor pieces. So I think the Giants are in that in-between state right now that we were talking about earlier. Like the Red Sox are very much in between. Chaim Bloom didn't know whether to buy or sell at this deadline, so he did
Yeah,
both.
that was. He should have sold.
Does it even
Yeah,
matter?
the Red
anymore?
Sox-
The Padres are winning it this year and next year probably. Why are we even trying?
The Red Sox are another loser for me, just because one, I will always call the Red Sox losers. That's fun for me. But also, they bought and sold. They
get rid of
they
JD.
didn't really do anything substantial enough. They're a 4th, arguably 5th place team in the American League East this year.
Now 4th because the freaking Orioles got worse.
Well, we'll see what the Orioles do. I mean, Adley Rutschman has come up and he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, but
So-
you got rid of Mancini and freaking your closer that was closing all the wins. Who's gonna close now?
I mean, they still have guys like Keegan Aiken in that bullpen who can step into the closer role. Dylan Tate's still there. He can close out games. I think the
Yeah.
Orioles are good enough to be a 4th place team in this division. They're not going to make
Who's
the
that really
playoffs.
big tall guy that was destroying the Yankees?
I don't remember.
He's like
The Orioles have
pitching
so many generic relievers that
It's like the giant guy with he's like the 8th inning guy. His name was like Ramirez or Rodriguez, some generic name.
anyway, I don't really know what to make of that, Mo.
But he's just really good. He dominated us.
Well, yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, he's probably gonna become closer.
So the Orioles, I think, they're a loser of the deadline, but we haven't seen the last of them.
No. For sure.
And then as for my one more loser, I'm gonna pick a player as a loser, and Cole Irvin of the Oakland A's, because he's been on a heater lately. My fantasy team is grateful for that. Cole Irvin's been great over his last 4 or 5 starts. Frankie Montas is gone. Who's left on the Oakland A's? Cole Irvin
JP Sears.
and
Yes.
Dude,
Sean
Laureano
Murphy,
is strong.
Ramon Laureano. Yeah. So the A's still have pieces,
He's
but
loaded.
Irvin was
JP
riding a
Sears, the
heater.
new ace.
They should have moved more. They can put together. I mean, with the pitchers they've gotten from the Yankees in Ken Waldichuk and JP Sears and James Caprillion 5 years ago, they could build a rotation out of
Also,
former
no one
Yankee
wanted
farmhands.
Sean Murphy or Ramon Laureano. I just can't like the Mets didn't ask about Sean Murphy. Like
Well, no, because they're stupid. So I want. That's,
So-
I don't think that really moves the needle for them, but still.
As for my
Sean
winners,
Murphy's really good though.
in the immediate
Yeah.
future, the Padres. Long term, we'll see if the Nationals can make something out of their return. Another
They
winner,
won't be as good as Soto.
the Yankees. They're a clear winner of the deadline. Like Chip said, they got better, and that's what you want to do at the deadline.
Losers.
And then
Oh, George is right. They're a winner.
one more winner. I'm going to take the Minnesota Twins because they were lacking in that bullpen, and they got a bona fide. They got a bona fide ace in the bullpen with Jorge Lopez from the Orioles. They gave up a haul. The Orioles got,
Well, they got freaking how do you pronounce it? Mali?
they got Tyler Mahle too from the Reds.
Wow.
So the Twins, like
He's not
Chip
that
just
good.
said, quiet
fine.
winner, and that AL
Quiet
Central race is wide open. I think it's a first round exit for the Twins,
Oh shit!
but I think they can win that AL Central. The Guardians and White Sox did not improve enough at the
I was just
deadline.
about to say the White Sox are huge losers.
So Max, why don't we go over to you to wrap this up?
Yeah, I'll close this out, boys. I'm gonna start with my winners because there's only two. They're the same as George, Yankees and the Padres. Padres are obvious. I'm more confused and perplexed by the Montgomery trade. I think he probably would have been a good bullpen arm in the playoffs, but I mean, maybe they wanted speed or something and Bader. I don't know. I'm not gonna try and speak for the Yankees and Brian Cashman, but those are my only two winners. Like it's, I think you definitely could make an argument for the Twins, but I'm just going top tier. Like they're the two winners right there. My losers are also very similar to a lot of what you guys have said. I think the Orioles are losers. They got rid of two of their biggest pieces. And obviously they weren't competing for first in the AL East, but I think they were right there for a wild card spot. And for a franchise that's been starving for any playoff appearance, I think they could make something work with some of the lower level prospects that could have moved the needle for them to just nudge them over the line. And you get great exposure. It's a great story for Baltimore. And what's not to love about Camden Yard? I love Camden. Another loser, like George said, is the Boston Red Sox, but not for the same reasons. I've been talking to Mo. Oh, guys, just one more thing. Vin Scully just died.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh my.
Yeah, 95.
That's
Yeah.
a big loss.
Yeah.
I think my first reaction is that when you sort of look back on your life and you think about did I when it's all over and you look back on your life, you sort of think about did I do it the best I could, and almost and plenty of us are going to say yes when our time comes, but Vin Scully would be telling the truth when he says that, because that he became the best to ever do what he did. He pioneered baseball broadcasting. He created so many memories for so many families in this country. He commentated on powerful social moments like Hank Aaron setting the record in the Deep South, and recognized and put to words the profundity of that moment in such an amazing way. It's just an unbelievable 95-year triumph.
Yeah, I mean, he as much as I hated the Dodgers and still hate the Dodgers, Vin Scully is the most iconic voice, other than maybe Bob Shepard, but in the history of broadcasting, Vin Scully is probably the most iconic voice in the history of sports commentating. And, to do what he did for 67 years for the Los Angeles Dodgers, he did what he loved every day for, longer than some people live. Certainly longer than most people work. Who works for 67 years?
And the Brooklyn Dodgers, I might add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vin Scully, he's a titan, and he made so many iconic calls. Chip, like you said, historic moments in the game and for the game and in the world. He's a legend, and when he stepped away from the game a couple of years ago, that was a big moment, and now this is it's really sad, but he, like you said, had a life really well lived.
And a voice remembered. I mean, not many people can really like say that, like his voice is like like we narrate our lives, like his voice is like sort of like the narration of like a lot of things, like a lot of memories that people have, like his voice is attached to that. So it's like
Yeah.
you remember things, but like when you remember it through someone's voice, it's like it's kind of like it's kind of weird, like you're remembering all these things through his voice.
Yeah, truly unbelievable. Just an unbelievable imprint. Made as much, I think, of an impact on the game of baseball as any player.
I'm stunned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is
I just, oh, gosh, can't process that. It's he's also probably the commentator who I think had the greatest, most natural command of the English language.
Mm-hmm.
It's listening to him was like listening to The Great Gatsby on an audiobook. It's
that's such a good way of putting it.
he just it was the dulcet voice combined with this such carefully chosen language. I mean, I'm just floored how he could seemingly find the words to transcend any moment on the spot. People, speech writers, people in their everyday lives struggle to find words. I'm struggling right now, but it seemingly came so natural to him. He's baseball's poet.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the way that he would call games, it was almost lazy in a sense, that it was so effortless.
But in the
Like, it
best
would
way.
exactly in the best way. It would come off so effortless. And for a majority of his career, I think even maybe for almost his entire career, he would do everything. He did it by himself. Like, he wasn't stuck in a booth with some play-by-play or stuck in the booth with some color commentator. He did all of that by himself, and he did it not only to the best of his ability, but the best we'll ever see. And
Yeah, he didn't need
so
anyone else.
he didn't exactly. He didn't need anybody else.
So
Yeah, I mean,
the voice of the Dodgers it's just, you associate, baseball commentating with Vin Scully. They are one and the same for generations of baseball fans. Generations of, casual, I'll go to a bar and watch a game. Oh, who's playing? The Dodgers. All right, let's watch the game. You remember Vin Scully. That voice, Ben, as you said, he was a wordsmith. He's just a titan in the history of this game. I think baseball fans, love the Dodgers, hate the Dodgers. You're gonna miss Vin Scully.
I'm gonna go watch For Love of the Game and listen to him just narrate.
As mediocre as that film is,
Yes.
I might do it too.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I
It's
kind of have to.
it's dramatic. It's you just hear his voice. That's
Yeah.
all. Nothing else.
I might go rewatch one of Clayton Kershaw's no hitters that he commentated.
Yeah, I
was
just searched that
watching-
on YouTube. Like I have
I was
that on
watching one of
YouTube.
those live. I remember.
All right. We all have our assignments now to go watch some
I
Clayton
have
Kershaw
it already
no
pulled
hitters
up
and
on
some
my phone.
Kirk
Well, that is
Gibson
our
walk-off
reflection.
home runs and baseball movies starring Kevin Costner that aren't Field of Dreams.
Dwight Clark's The Catch. If you want to
right.
know football. Yeah.
Oh, football's awesome.
Yeah.
Joe Montana.
Football is as sad as
That's
baseball does.
greatest play in sports history, I think so. Yeah, so that's gonna wrap up a supersized trade deadline Vin Scully episode of Shout at the Plate. Thanks to all of you guys for hopping on the Zoom call tonight. We'll try to get all 5 of us back together for a panel again sometime soon. Maybe as we're getting into the playoff push.
Oh God, I'm gonna be the worst.
The Padres go all the way.
So
Dude,
If Solo
that'll-
starts hitting 400 the rest of the season and has 50 150.
Yeah, no, Fernando
We'll see it.
Tatis and his home running game pace because of all that protection. I'm gonna hate it. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be crazy, man.
All right. Good night, everyone.
See you, gentlemen.
Bye.